and a jolly good sunny but rather cool September morning here in Hertford, Hertfordshire, and welcome to part 5 of my walk of the full length of the River Lee. This is somewhere around about the halfway point, I think, looking on the map. Now, if you've just happened upon this video, episode 5, and you want to see it from the beginning, obviously stop watching now and go back and find episodes 1 to 4, which will already be published. And if you want to just carry on from here, look out for 6, 7, 8, 9 and possibly up to 10, where I'll eventually reach the River Thames. Not entirely sure how many episodes in total, but I think we're probably going to be on about 9 or 10 by the end. Today's walk is going to be from here in Hertford to Rye House, which is close to Hoddesdon in Hertfordshire. Rye House chosen by me purely for logistical purposes, for continuing on today into London and getting on with some business. However, the main priority this morning is the walk. It's approximately just under 8 miles, should take somewhere in the order of 2.5 hours, and so let's go. I've just got to find my way back into Hertford Castle grounds that the River Lee flows through, and we'll head on and see what we see today. If you've seen episode 4, you'll know that I spent a lot of time quite a long distance away from the River Lee, and in some cases walking towards the walking alongside busy main roads. So I'm really rather hoping that that won't be the case on this occasion. It's a lot cooler day today. If you saw episodes 3 and 4, you'll know it was a very hot day. Things have cooled off a little bit as we head on into autumn. And once again, there is the impressive and rather nice looking Hertford Castle. So I'm just going to recheck my Go Jauntly app for the route I'm taking today, and let's go. And just having a little look at the map, yeah, it looks a lot more conducive to walking close or nearish to the river most of the time, and there shouldn't be any need for much in the way of walking down motorways, I hope. It's going to be interesting once I get a little bit closer to the end of the walk as I head into London, as the river branches off quite a bit. There's the Lee navigation, which is basically the river converted into something that boats can go up and down, rather like a canal, and other various I can't think how they're described now, as sort of bypass routes for the water. So I'll take that as it comes. But the Lee navigation itself is actually quite interesting to walk along, and has a towpath and things like that, so it's excellent for cycling along and also walking along. I will say Hertford is a nice town to just have a look around, irrespective of whether you're doing walks along the River Lee. The River Lee itself actually is just going under the road over there. I'm sort of walking parallel to it at the moment, but like most towns that have rivers going through them, they tend to have a lot more history and a lot more interesting things to see than towns that have just appeared from nowhere. Obviously rivers being the source of communication and transportation, and a source of water also, of course. So yeah, Hertford's a historic old town, county town of Hertfordshire, and worthy of a visit in its own right. This appears to be the beginning of what's called the Lee Wildlife Corridor. The river splits off here. Just over there, what is designated as the River Lee, just behind the tree to the right, and just underneath me is what I think is probably the beginnings, at least, of the Lee navigation. And as you'll see, it takes on much more of a canal-esque look. I'm going to, the two run fairly parallel to each other for most of the time, and it's the lee navigation that I'm going to go with, primarily because the ability to walk directly next to it is more or less guaranteed the entire time. There may be one or two exceptions, but I think certainly as far as Ware, you can walk all the way just along the river. And of course then there's some interesting things to see, such as canal side pubs, fittingly named the Old Barge, and of course some old barges and river boats to see too. So yeah, this is what I'll do. There are one or two points where the two merge and meet again, but I think we'll stick to the lee navigation as far as possible now for the remainder of this walk. Nice cottages here. Shame about all the noise going on over there. Just coming up to the section now that where the lee navigation and the river itself meet each other, with engineering in place to act as a regulator for the water level in the canal, which is obviously important to be kept within fairly tight boundaries. And there's also sections, of course, where one or the other are fed by or are feeding lakes and numerous wildlife and beauty spots along the way. So I mean, as you can see here, where the canal's kept the same elevation above sea level, which they have to do without the use of locks to go up and down, the river of course just gradually makes its way lower down. So I'd say at this particular point the river level is approximately, I'd say, about 2 meters below the canal. So to get them back to the same level, there'll be some locks further along. I've got no idea where they are, but as the river drops and drops towards more or less sea level at the River Thames, then the canal will have to also do so. Nice little spot actually. It's interesting how I've just crossed over to the other side of the navigation, and it's referred to as the Riverside Walk when it isn't really a river. To all intents and purposes it's a canal. The river's over there to my left, so anyway, I won't quibble over semantics. Oh, maybe we will. It's amazing these days how many really nice high-end apartments get built up against canals. Some I've just walked past back there, and if I was going to join a scout group, I think First Hertford Scout Group would be a good one to join. Look at their canoes there they've got. That's makes for great fun. Just going past rather an inspiring looking trading estate there on the left, but I guess that was a modern version of what used to be there from the canal's heyday. Just starting to edge out of Hertford now and attaining a small amount of canal or riverside tranquility. For the rest of this walk really, we're not going to enter into too much open countryside the nearer we get to London, but there will be some along the way, and I can just see some ahead now that looks very pleasant with some cows in the field. But on the whole, Certainly once we take a right turn and head down towards Hoddesdon and into London itself, in future episodes it will get more and more built up, and those very expensive high-end apartments will become more and more prevalent. And here we are, we've come to a lock which should drop the navigation down to the same or similar level as the river, which is just over there on the right hand side. Can't quite see it from here amongst all those trees. It's quite a big lock actually, this one. A lot bigger than some you find on the say the Grand Union Canal. Lockkeeper's house is now private residence. But yeah, Hertford Lock 1. I'm guessing my instinct about the navigation without googling it is that it did start just back there, and the locks will be numbered upwards from here. But hopefully I'll see them all. I do like a lock. They are a fantastic piece of engineering, and I know very often locks are accompanied by pubs or old inns. Beware the canal workers would moor up for the night, be able to go and get somewhere to eat, have a beer, things like that. And of course the pubs are more for leisure and pleasure use these days. And that house there that's now private residence may well have also had a pub on it at one time. It doesn't now. And they're a nice place to go and sit on an afternoon and watch the people with their boats going up and down. And yeah, managed to find a little bit of open land here anyway. The sun's finally come out. As I say, this will get less and less as we get closer and closer to the end of this river. Still great distance to go though yet, so let's see what else we see. Ware is the next main town, and it's around about a mile and a quarter from here, so not far away. Right, so just up here, what we're calling the River Lee, which is just over there, actually filters in its entirety at this point, just ahead of us, into the navigation, and they both become one. I think there are some various routing channels and so on and so forth that take water either to or away from the canal later on and feed some lakes. So we'll see how that goes actually. I didn't realise the two actually combined completely at this point, so that's interesting. It doesn't give me a dilemma of which one I'm going to walk down anymore though, that's for sure. But yeah, the river's just by that tree line over there, and we'll join the navigation just ahead of me. There's a sign there, new members welcome, naturist spot, so not quite sure it is, but I'm presumably not on that log in the middle of the water. And as you'll see, there's a sign just over there. That's referring to the right-hand path there, which says end of navigation, because that then becomes the River Lee and where it joins. So interesting little waterfall just over there coming out of the hill as well. That's nice. There's something extremely calming about the sound of canal boats. Oh, they just chug along. I mean, getting into the whole business of electric vehicles and lorries and vans and all that kind of thing, is it ever going to work for something like this? How's it going to work? I can't imagine electric boats chugging up and down the canal. Well, I can categorically say already, even though I'm only a short distance into this walk, that if you're heading to Hertford and want to take a walk along the River Lee or the Lee navigation, then head off in the direction of Ware as opposed to Hatfield. While the route to Hatfield is okay, it is literally just river, no towpaths or footpaths along the side of it, apart from in one or two, just a few small areas. And there was quite a vast area. If you've seen part 4, you'll know what I mean. But there was quite a vast area where the River Lee just went through private land and there was no access to it, and I more or less ended up walking along what you would describe as a motorway, the A414, which is highly undesirable and not to be recommended, particularly if you're in some sort of a group or you've got children with you, or indeed for anyone really. It just wasn't satisfactory. So if you are going to walk between Hatfield and Hertford, I would give the River Lee itself an actual miss and walk along the old railway line from just north of Hatfield at Welling to Hertford, and you'll have a much more pleasurable experience. You'll still be in the Lee Valley, but you won't be very near to the river itself. Anyway, that's that dealt with. Very pleased and impressed with this. I was just looking up the other day actually to decide quite how far I was going to go, and Rye House seemed to fit the bill, both on time and distance. And I saw a few blogs relating to walking along here, and quite a few people say what a pleasurable stroll it is between Hertford and Ware at least. So, and I have to concur, they are quite right, it is very nice indeed. And also the number of people walking up and down here on a, what are we today, Wednesday morning in September, is indicative of the fact it's popular and nice to walk along. When I was walking between Hatfield and Hertford, it was a Saturday morning. It was rather a hot Saturday morning, which may have put some off, but there weren't too many about along that route. Anyway, let's carry on. Nearly in Ware now. So over here's King's Meads, which appears to be a kind of a nature reserve, beauty spot, wetland, etc. There's a few signs just over there explaining which animals, birds in particular, that you're going to be able to see. And this is King's Meads Viaduct, which is carrying the A10 through this beautiful area. But you can get into King's Meads. There's access gates all along this path. And I should imagine it's quite good for bird spotting. So now I'm well outside of Hertford and along the navigation towpath. I've reset my route to Rye House, and the Go Jauntly app is now routing me completely along here. So this walk's just going to be along here now. No need to go along any motorways or anything unpleasant like that. So I'm very happy about that. And from my location here, which we're not quite at Ware yet, is about 4.5 miles, so about an hour and a half more to walk. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. If it remains as picturesque and as pleasant as this, then I'll be very happy with this section. Incidentally, the Go Jauntly app, there are others available I'm sure, is my go-to app for countryside or town walking when you want to, generally speaking, stay away from busy main roads, down nice footpaths, canal paths, etc, etc. And going back to what I was saying earlier on about the walk between Hatfield and Hertford, it was completely flummoxed when I got to a certain point in that walk. If you've seen episode 4, again, you'll know what I mean. It wasn't able to offer me a route other than a massive backtrack from where I was, which I didn't really have the time or energy for, to be honest, to keep me on nice, safe paths. That's its MO. I had to use Google Maps and essentially going in the right direction without the use of Go Jauntly. But yeah, it's a fantastic app. I thoroughly recommend it. I've used it many times, and it's my go-to app certainly if I go to somewhere where I don't really know where I am and I want to go on a nice walk, as opposed to something that Google Maps may throw up along busy main roads or something like that. Anyway, that's enough said about that. I was going to crack on now and get through the centre of Ware, see what we see there. Ware's also a nice town actually, so I'm not quite sure where the river goes through, but I'm presuming it'll be through the centre of it. And of course, if you want to just walk between Hertford and Ware, then there are railway stations at both and buses between the two. Buses between the two actually probably would be the best, because I'm fairly sure that from Ware you'd have to go into London and back out again, which would be probably expensive and time consuming. Anyway, or you could just walk there and back. It's not that far. Right, so we're just entering Ware now, and that sign over there says Ware, Lock, Weir and Siphon. So there's quite a bit of canal and river based engineering going on here as the land drops constantly towards the River Thames. Again, it's dropping down here again, and I'll try and find the actual lock itself in a moment. I'm presuming it's just over there somewhere. As this as this canal is fed by a constantly flowing river, they've got to get rid of some of the water away to keep the canal level the same, and this is how it's done. You can't rely on the water being regulated by the passage of boats through the lock, as there may not be enough of them, and it happening frequently enough for the water to move through the lock that way. Here it is again. Another quite substantial drop. The lock not quite as big as the one back at Hertford. You certainly could get two narrow boats in there. And there it goes. It drops down here, and the siphon, as it appears to be called, the weir and siphon, brings the excess water to the lower level around that way. Beautiful, nice spot. Appears to be lacking the requisite pub. I bet there was one here at one time though. I can't see anything much though resembling an old pub, but I expect there probably was one at one time, or an inn. Pretty much in the centre of Ware now, and this is where you would, if you wanted to go visit the town for a little while, you would head over the bridge there and into the town, and all the usual things are there. Another one of those signs, no mention of Leagrave this time, just saying, well, it says Ware, 1/4 mile, Hertford now 2 miles away. I have to say, it does feel like I've walked further than 2 miles, but anyway. This is Ware Town Quay, so yeah, if you want to hit the centre of historic town of Ware, this is where to go and do it. On carrying on. Certainly some lovely properties backing onto the river here, and of course some high-end apartments created from old decrepit buildings or from scratch at some point, but certainly nice places to live, I always think, next to rivers or a canal. Just going to have a little side. Not even sure what it is actually, looking on the map. This bit I'm going over now on the bridge. It's like a little inlet, presumably was for mooring up boats and reaching wharfs and buildings such as that back in the day. It's all modern now though. There's a pub just here, Saracen's Head, just behind the tree. On the other side, footway closed. Oh, great. Right, so I'm going to have to take a slight detour here. Certainly plenty of places to stop and get some refreshment on your way through Ware. I won't be doing that today. Let's carry on another 4 miles or so to Rye House. I do love the history that goes with the canals and the canal and river network. The history is just absolutely fantastic, and I'm always delighted that even though they're really more of a tourist attraction these days rather than a genuine artery of commerce and communication, they're still here and still enjoyed by millions of people every year. I know across Europe there's quite a substantial network as well, in France and various other countries, which is also good to see. But I think here in Britain it's really is second to none. And of course it was the original way of getting from A to B with large quantities of goods. I've just been past an old flour mill. Of course, the death of the canals being used for commercial reasons was the railway coming along, which got things to places a lot more quickly, and certainly with perishable goods less likely to let them perish. And yeah, you could have Scottish salmon in London overnight, and you still can, although it's probably brought by a lorry now down the motorway or an aeroplane. Times hath changed, of course, but it's still great to see these great pieces of infrastructure alive and well, and this would have brought goods to and from well, all over the world really, but from the River Thames up into Hertfordshire, and from there to who knows where. I think I've just seen a massive A380 circling around over there, which I can only presume is heading towards Stansted Airport. This has gone into the clouds now. I'm fairly sure it was an A380, and I just caught a glimpse of it before it disappeared. Stansted Airport's not that far from here, so I don't know, I'm not really a plane spotter. I don't think it's an A380 on reflection, but it's certainly a 4-engined aircraft. The the fuselage doesn't look, not really got a very good angle of it from here, but the fuselage doesn't look really big enough to be an A380. So interestingly, the River Lee makes a new appearance, or makes an appearance again, and there's a weir just there that carries excess water from the canal to keep the canal level correct at all times, and the River Lee is now acting as a balancing regulation channel, if you like. It's called the River Lee, so I'm interested to see what it actually looks like further down. Look at all that litter that's caught up there. At least it's caught up there. I'm presuming at some point someone comes along and scoops all that up and doesn't let it flow over the top into the river itself, or carry on further down the canal. As the navigation continues along here, the River Lee winds its way over in the distance over there, and between it and here is a series of lakes. Not really sure what they're called because I can't see the name of them on the map, but it might become apparent later on. Look at these guys. They're hoping I don't want to eat my sandwiches. And some more lovely apartments and residences next to the canal here. What just gone up as I've walked along, basically in this section, there's a sign there again, private property residents only, no dogs allowed, no picnics etc allowed, do not let your dog foul. I've seen quite a few of those, and I find it absolutely astounding that anyone would think it was okay to go and use someone's front garden over there as a picnic spot, or indeed leave, when presumably these really bad stuff like leaving litter behind and letting their dog foul. I just can't understand it, why anyone would think it's okay to do that. There's quite clearly a fence here next to the towpath, but there you go. Yeah, it's got to be for Stansted. Looks like a Ryanair heading on in. I don't know what that other one was though. Right, so I've left the town of Ware now, and got into some surprisingly tranquil section of canal here. It's really rather nice. As I say, this is going to become fewer and fewer and less as we get closer to London. I'd certainly be wanting to moor my boat down here rather than back up there. There's the railway line as well. I'm essentially following that on one side and the navigation on the other to Rye House. Let's go up to a little area here where it splits slightly and has a kind of an island in the middle. It looks like there's, or certainly was, two locks, one on each side. The one right over there looks like it's either closed or been refurbished or something in some way. But the one over here most definitely is in operation. And there you go, another lockkeeper's house, which was probably sold a long time ago as a private residence. And great old houses these. I'm not sure I'd necessarily want to live by a lock, as they do attract a lot of attention from people. But certainly a picturesque place to live, if nothing else. I guess one out here in the away from a town is much more preferable. And here we go, back to numbering again. Hardmead lock 3, so third lock. Wonder how many we'll reach by the time we get to London. Not quite so much of a drop down this time, but it still must be a good... What's that? 2 metres probably. 2 metre drop down there, which is how far the natural land has dropped since the previous lock. Another 2.5 miles to go to reach Rye House. Just to my right, over there somewhere, is Great Amwell, and to my left it will be, in a mile or so, Stansted Abbots, which is nothing to do with Stansted Airport, so don't go there if you want the airport. You'll be in the wrong place for sure. This is really quite a nice, really a nice part of the walk. Actually, it's a lot more rural than I was expecting it to be, so I'm very pleased with that, and making the most of it while I can. And it's we've got a towpath come cycle track on both sides at this point as well, which is quite useful. I would just like to correct something I said earlier on with regards to getting from, say, Hertford to Ware, or indeed Rye House, or anywhere along this canal. I was forgetting Hertford East Station, which is the station you would use to get between Ware and the other points of interest along this canal. If you wanted to walk one way and get the train back, to start at one or the other. I arrived at Hertford North Station, which doesn't come this way. This goes more north and south between Stevenage and London via Hertford. So yeah, sorry about that. There is a train or a bus that can get you along this canal if you wanted to walk as far as you can in one direction and use transport in the other. Sorry about that. I'm sure a few of you that have watched this were shouting at the telly saying I'm all wrong. Yes, I was wrong, totally wrong. Completely forgot about Hertford East Station. It just occurred to me now when I was just looking at the railway line there, thinking, well, where's that going to? It's surely going up towards Hertford direction. Oh yeah, Hertford East. Whoops, I forgot about that. Beautiful along here. Right, so I'm just going to cross over here a moment because I can actually see some of these lakes that are shown on the map. No real... I'm sure some maps show the names, but this one, the one I'm looking at, doesn't. Amwell Nature Reserve. There we go. There's a sign here. 26th of August, recent sightings. 1 green sandpiper, 2 teal, 2 kingfisher, 1 snipe, 2 raven. I like that. Bit of a low-tech sign, but that certainly adds to the charm of it all. Nice place. Oh yeah, some bird spotting huts over there, if that's what they're called. I don't live particularly close to here, but I've never heard of here before. Amwell. I live in this county. list of all the different birds that you're likely to be able to see here. So if you're a bird spotter, this would be a great place to come. Just come into Stansted St Margaret's and Stansted Abbot. Just ahead, one directly ahead and one just over to the left there. I'm absolutely astounded actually. I didn't realise quite so many boats moored up here, along here. There is a lot, and it's good to see. And boats of all shapes and sizes as well, sort of motor cruisers there. That's the word for them. And of course there's traditional canal boats. I even saw something, I couldn't quite make out what it was, but it looked like some sort of rescue ship belonging to a rescue boat or lifeboat belonging to a North Sea oil rig. I might have got that wrong. I should have taken a picture of it actually, but I didn't do. But it's only a small sort of enclosed, looked almost like a submarine. Fascinating walk this is I'm going to say this now, this is probably my favourite sector so far, in terms of just being able to stay next to the water more or less the whole time, in nice pleasant surroundings. The Upper Lee, although it's quite difficult to walk directly next to it. And indeed, in fact the section really from Harpenden to Hatfield was pretty good too. But this is the best so far. Certainly plenty of nice things to look at along the way. Particularly if you enjoy looking at canal boats. And as I was expecting actually, as the land on each side of the canal has gradually dropped lower and lower, and the canal obviously stays on a flat trajectory. We've come to another lock, and another lockkeeper's house that is presumably a private residence again. Lock number 4, Stansted Lock. Yeah, another two or so metres drop there, and I'll leave that there a moment. The instructions on how to operate the lock for those of you that have never seen it in operation before. The Lee Conservancy hereby give notice that this bridge is dangerous for weights exceeding 1 tonne, and that the public use the bridge at their own risk. Okay, so we've got a swing bridge here as well, which adds a nice touch to it all. And as for the 1 tonne weight limit, I think I'll probably just about get in there. Lee and Stort Cruising Club. I can't really go over that side then. I'll stick to the hoi polloi section over here. But yeah, nice lock, nice lockkeeper's house, and a bonus of a swing bridge, open bridge before entry lock. Stansted Swing Bridge 60. Excellent. Some more modern looking high-end apartments right next to the canal. Okay, so there's a nice little useful sign. Ware 2 miles, Hertford 5, St Margaret's Station at Stansted St Margaret's is just up here if it's a good place for you to rejoin public transport, or you could carry on to Broxbourne and Waltham Abbey. As mentioned before, I'm carrying on to the station called Rye House, which I think is probably about 1.5 miles to 2 miles from here. It's not far, but that will be the end of this walk today, and where the next one will start up from as soon as I can possibly do that. And again, the number of boats being moored up, and indeed in a lot of cases people living on along here, is quite astounding actually. I really wasn't expecting that. I was expecting some, not maybe quite so many. So just back there is where the River Lee itself officially rejoins the navigation, and the two become one again for a little while at least anyway. And just ahead of us, and thankfully I'm going only underneath it, is the dreaded A414. If any of you saw episode 4 of this series, the one before, between Hatfield and Hertford, I did have to spend a little bit of time walking along the side of this road, and it was an extremely unpleasant experience, I have to say. At the time I was left with few options due to reasons I've already explained. So yeah, I'm glad I've had to go nowhere near that today, apart from walking under it now. It does rather spoil the aesthetic beauty of this area, having that go across. 3 times it took me to say that. Grim. Right, last mile or so now to Rye House. I've noticed here it's the navigation, although it's still called the Lee navigation here, is more river looking now that the actual river is rejoined, and has got a very gentle flow, whereas the canals, although they do flow also very very slowly, and the flow's controlled by those weirs and boats using the locks and so on. Yeah, it's it looks more like a very slow meandering river now, as opposed to a canal, but it's still navigable, if that's the right word for it. Not far from the end of this section now. I say I'm almost slightly disappointed I'm coming to the end, because I'm enjoying it so much, but I shall set off on walk number 6 with renewed vigour after the slightly disappointing part 4 that, as I say, I ended up walking along what amounted to almost being a motorway. But there we go. It's all part of the adventure. This really is pleasant round here. It really is nice. Right, so I'm fast approaching the point where I move away from the river Lee, stroke navigation, and head over to the railway station, which is just over there somewhere. I think I can just see it through all the trees. There's the railway line directly next to the river still, and head into London. So this is, as I said earlier on, this has been by far my most favourite section of this walk so far, number 5. And sadly I have to say number 4 was my least favourite for the reasons I've already given you. I hope you enjoyed watching this one. If you did, then click on subscribe and like, and press that yellow bell for notifications when more videos come out. So I've got a fair few on my channel of various walks in different places. If you're seeing this, number 5, then 1 to 4 most definitely will already be published, and you might well have about 4 or 5 more taking you down to the River Thames to look at as well. I'm not going to publish any of them until all are complete, so I will do them sequentially once I get there. So once again, thanks for watching from the River Lee here at Rye House near Hoddesdon in Hertfordshire. I'm going to go and grab a drink over there and then head to the railway station. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers, bye. Just before I go, just one more thing. The train that I'm going to hop on here at Rye House left Hertford East a few minutes ago, and it takes it 11 minutes to get here, including 2 stops along the way. It's just taken me best part of 2.5 hours, so yeah, there you go. Bit of info for you, and I'll be heading on into Liverpool Street from here, which takes me about half an hour roughly. So once again, thanks again for watching. Catch you again soon. Cheers, bye.